So now joining us on the line is a LSU legend. He's going to be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame one day. That is the former great NFL defensive back, and that is Patrick Peterson, kind enough to join us right now. Pat P, what's happening, my guy?
Man, how you guys doing? I'm also kind of a little upset. Why am I not in the SEC Hall of Fame yet? I mean, I just saw my guy Tyron just got inducted. You know, I did it before him. Congratulations to my guy. But I'm just trying to figure out how I'm not in that just yet, because I'm a SEC legend as well, right?
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. Now, I will just say, and I shoot you straight here. I'm not like all these other hosts that just will say, oh, yeah, Pat P, whatever you say, everything's great and wonderful. Do you really care about the SEC Hall of Fame? I know the College Football Hall of Fame would be pretty cool. It's canon or bust. You know, like, let's be real. That's the Hall of Fame that people care about.
It's definitely, I agree with you. It's definitely canon or bust. But at the same time, I still like accolades. You know, I still like adding something on to the trophy case.
No, it's definitely fair. But if we're sitting here 6-7 years from now, and they don't have you in Canton, Ohio, I'm going to do what I did for Leroy Butler. And I'm going to threaten to beat up the jackasses that vote for these awards until they actually put you in. I don't think I'll have to do that for you like I did Leroy and like what I also did for Jerry Kramer. But I could be an a-hole Pat if I need to be.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
You got it. All righty. So we have you on. You're an LSU legend. You're an SEC legend. You're going to obviously be in the Hall of Fame one day in the NFL. Forget about all the other stuff. But what was your reaction yesterday when you found out that Brian Kelly was getting dismissed from the Tiger family?
Man, it's funny that you said it like that. But honestly, man, I wasn't surprised. You know, the expectations were very high. You know, when he first got there, you know, it came out of his own mouth that, you know, he came there wanting to compete for, you know, SEC championship, national titles, be in the college football, you know, playoff conversation each and every year. And he has fell short of that miserably. You know what I mean? So, yes, he is a great recruiter. He has gotten great guys in there, but I feel like he did not fit into the culture of the LSU brand. And he definitely started off on the wrong foot, trying to add that Southern twang in there at the basketball game when he was first introduced as the LSU head coach.
Yeah, and you look at it in a 4-team college football playoff format. I get it, right? The standard of LSU is to still go win a national championship. But the last 2 years we're playing in a 12-team format. Last year couldn't be one of the 12 best teams in the country. And then this year, he clearly wasn't going to be one of the best 12 teams in the country. Now this shift to the 12-team format, I think it's bigger than just LSU, but you look James Franklin out at Penn State, Billy Napier out at Florida. It obviously, because there's more access to the playoff, it puts more pressure on these coaches to, at bare minimum, just go make the college football playoff. And that's the thing to me, Pat. He couldn't just be really good at LSU. Not even great, not even elite. If he was just really good, you make a 12-team playoff this year.
100%. And it was a lot of just mishaps and, I won't necessarily say coaching errors, but like game management, in my opinion, just watching those games, how we don't have timeouts when we need them at the end of the games, how we don't make the right play before halftime, it seems to me that he could, point the finger at everyone but him when he's the head coach. It was just a lot of things that I did not like as him being the head coach of the LSU football team. I just feel like he blamed everyone all the time. You can even see it, on the sideline when he's, cursing at the head coach. I understand fire, but I understand, passion for the game, this, that, and the other. But at the same time, when you have that job, you have to take accountability. You have to stand at the forefront and take all of the responsibilities of what's going on. And I feel like he never did that.
Yeah, and you also look at it in the year of 2025 going into 2026 when you'll have a new LSU head football coach. That dictator style, my way or the highway type of style, I just don't think it works in football really anymore. And you kind of need a player's coach who isn't a doormat. Like, that's what I look for now in the hiring process. And I clearly don't think that Brian Kelly, here's the breaking news of the day, he definitely wasn't a player's coach, Pat.
No, he wasn't a player's coach. And I'm going to tell you when it really started to go downhill when he fired Coach Tommy Moffitt. Coach Tommy Moffitt is honestly, I've been in that program. I've seen it. I've been through his workouts. He is honestly the real backbone. He was the real reason of not the real reason. He was the backbone of that LSU program because we was with him every single day. He was the one that was getting the guys wired different, getting us in shape, getting us in, physical war ready for when it was time for Saturdays. We was going to be the most physical team, regardless if we won or lost. After you play LSU, you was going to feel it. And that's what Tommy Moffitt instilled in us each and every day that we was with him. So when he fired him, his first fire, I'm like, what? You firing Tommy Moffitt, a guy who is honestly probably more of a father figure to the team than the head coach. And no disrespect to Les Miles, no disrespect to Nick Saban, but that's how important Tommy Moffitt was to the LSU program. And when he fired him, when that was his first fire, I was like, oh yeah, this guy is not going to be a fun ride for him because Tommy Moffitt had more leverage than some of the head coaches that was there. And when that was his first fire, I was like, yeah, this is not going to be a good tender for Brian Kelly.
Patrick Peterson here with us. For the first few years of this tenure, it was, hey, the offense is rocking. The offense is humming. The defense got to figure it out. And then this year, the defense started off on a good note, and the offense has just been dreadful for the majority of the season. I know that it's not all on the coaching. The coaching plays a big part of it. But when you look at the offense with Garrett Nussmeier and company, why do you think it's just been this bad? Because if they were just serviceable this season, we're probably not having this conversation today.
Yeah, just very disappointed with the offense and how they came back and just underachieved for the most part. I know a lot of guys went on to the NFL and things like that, but Nussmeier, he was basically, the key to the car. I feel like he had the ability to make everyone go. Obviously, I feel like the last game we had the last 2 weeks we had a kind of, a kind of a efficient run game. But every quarterback needs a run game. At LSU, we always been known to run the football when we wanted to, and I feel like that's been something that's been hindering his success in this year of us not being able to run the ball efficiently. And also all of these teams now, because I do college football games for CBS. So watching all of these defenses, they're lining up in these too high safety looks to where they're taking away the shot for the quarterback from the get-go. So therefore, now they're making these quarterbacks have to read through their progressions more often than none. And that's why you're not seeing as many 9 balls. You're not seeing as many deep posts as you was accustomed to seeing in years past, just because of the way defenses are setting up and taking away those deep shots from the quarterback first look.
Let's say Scott Woodward calls you up and goes, Pat, I know how much you love this university. You're looking out for us. I just want to pick your brain. I want to ask some alum on who you think they should hire. Who would you recommend as the next LSU head football coach to replace Brian Kelly with?
Man, I would love, because I believe now this game is young, just like the NFL. Like these organizations, these institutions, they want coaches that's able to relate to these kids. So I think you have to go young. You don't have to go young, but at least go towards someone that can recruit, someone that can communicate with these kids, someone that can fit in with them, and someone that these kids can trust. So I love Joe Brady. I love bringing his name up just because what he's been able to do when he was there with Joe Burrow, and what he's been able to do, when he in his time in Buffalo right now. I saw that the Nick Saban name has came up a couple of times, but I think Nick Saban is very comfortable not coaching and receiving his paycheck from ESPN every week, being on College Game Day. Jimbo Fisher, he's a guy who's been in the ranks, and I believe he won a championship with Nick Saban in 2003, if I'm not mistaken. But he's a guy who's been in the locker room, who's been in Baton Rouge, who understands what it takes to win, and also recruit very, very heavily in to get guys there to win championships. So those are the 2 guys who I would lean on. James Franklin, he's not a bad candidate, but we got to get someone in there that understands that LSU pipeline, that understand what it means to win right now, because we're in a damn era to where mediocrity is not acceptable anymore. Like going 9-3, 9-4, like you have to be in the conversation of competing for conference championships, and that's what keeps your job safe.
What about Lane Kiffin? I didn't think Lane Kiffin would leave Ole Miss for Florida, but I think he would definitely leave for LSU. Your thoughts on Lane?
I think, yeah, I would love Lane Kiffin just because of what he's been able to do as well. His pizzazz that he has on the offensive side of the ball, his ability to be being able to recruit. I think that would be a great hire if we are able to steal Lane Kiffin from Ole Miss. But I believe it's going to be an extension coming up soon from Ole Miss that they're going to make him probably the highest paid coach in the in college football, and then that's going to put more heat on LSU. I saw that they was having negotiation with Brian Kelly about the buyout, so I don't know that situation as far as how much money they would have to pay out him and also bringing on another head coach. Well, they have to bring on another head coach, but at that dollar price, it's going to be interesting to see. But I wouldn't mind having Lane Kiffin as our head coach.
Yeah, I'm just going to go on a limb, getting back to Jimbo, since Scott already had to buy him out once before. I don't think it's going to be Jimbo, but I'll tell you this.
I don't think so either. I just thought about that.
Yeah. But if it's not hey, let's say it's not Lane. Yeah, I think you got to call Dan Lanning. I think Dan Lanning will probably stay at Oregon. Maybe wants to get back in the SEC. You go through it. Let's say if Joe Brady goes, I could go coach probably Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase in the NFL. Does a name like a Kenny Dillingham at Arizona State excite you? Does a Brent Key at Georgia Tech maybe excite you as well?
Man, I like Arizona State head coach, man. I had the opportunity to meet him a couple of times when I lived in Arizona. I love his energy. He actually, went out there and turned that organization around as well. My only thing is about bringing, someone in to the LSU culture. They have to be able to fit in the Louisiana community. That's the biggest thing to me. And being able to recruit as well, but being able to fit in and being able to touch the people and help and have the people have a better understanding of who you are. Because, as you know, Louisiana is probably the best hospitality state, in the world. So if you come in there being true to who you are and trying to get an understanding of what this community needs or what this culture means to this community, I think you'll be just fine. But we have to find a coach who understands that, and I don't know who that is just yet.
All right, let me just bounce around real quickly with some of the NFL teams that you played on. Kyler Murray, are you just not a believer in him? Is it time to – I know they have the contract, but is it just time, hey, at the end of the year you got to probably move elsewhere?
Oh, man, you put me in a tough spot here to talk about K1. I honestly feel like K1, he has all the intangibles to be able to do, be special in this league. But, he has to be willing to take that next step. And with that being, the starting quarterback of a franchise, it's just certain ways that you have to carry yourself. It's certain ways that you have to conduct yourself to have the guys follow your lead, because at the end of the day, you can say what you want. It's a team effort that it is. But a coach always told me this: the speed of the leader is the speed of the pack. And quite frankly, the quarterback is more than likely is the leader of the team. So whatever speed that the leader is going, that's what the speed of the pack is going to go. And that's what I want to help him understand is that you are the leader of this pack. So whatever your demeanor is, however you carry yourself, that's how the team is going to carry themselves. And if he is able to understand that and being able to change his ways on how, he conducts himself on the field, after turnovers and things like that, I think the team will be in a better position.
Just looking at someone that's trying to still figure it out in the NFL, and I think he can, is Marvin Harrison Jr. If he called you up, and I know that you were a defensive back, he's a wide receiver, but you know what it takes when you're looking at a great wide receiver. What would you kind of say to him now, a year and a half in, and it's just not going the way that we thought it would so far?
Man, for the most part, with Marvin Harrison Jr., he understands and knows how to play the game. He played Power 5, and I think it's Power 4 now.
Yeah.
They changed all these conferences. But now he played in Power 4 football. He played meaningful football. So he understands how to play the game. Now he just have to go into these games and just fall back on his fundamentals, because catching the football is the number one fundamental for a receiver. Drops is just unacceptable. So I don't know what drills and things that he used to make sure that, if things wasn't going right, he, went back and fell on a certain drill and things like that. But just hone in on the fundamentals, man. Making routine things routinely. You know what I mean? And once you start there, the chips will start to fall. But another thing I'll say about Marvin Harris is, I feel like you've seen a different Marvin Harrison when Jacoby Brissett was a quarterback versus Kyler Murray, because I saw a difference from the standpoint of the routes or the catches that he was making. With Kyler Murray, it was more of, nines and sevens. And it's just me being a savant of the game and just watching the game and understand how, these plays are breaking down. But when he's in there with Kyler Murray, it's back shoulder fades, 7 routes, and stops. When Jacoby Brissett was in there, it was more overs. It was more deep comebacks. It was more deep outs. He threw a couple back shoulder fades. It seemed to me that the route tree was more available to him with Jacoby Brissett being the quarterback versus Kyler Murray. So I don't know what it is with that, but that's just my, scouting report from what I've been seeing since I've been watching the Cardinals this year.
Interesting. By the way, I always like to make fun of your cousin Brian McFadden, who I love, Patrick Peterson. He didn't have too many wins up against my football team when he was playing, and now he kind of gets thrown in the fandom of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I texted him the other night. I said, hey, B-Mac, you and Pat may have to come out of retirement and play for this Steelers defense because they stink right now. They are bad, Pat.
Oh, man, and all those guys, my guys, Joey Porter, Jalen, Slay, those my guys, man. I hate to see, what they're not able to do there in Pittsburgh, because being there with Mike Tomlin, being a, defensive minded, the guy that he is, and how much he loves football, and having all of those guys there, I just thought it would be a better turnout from being, the worst passing defense in the league. I believe I saw they was 32nd in passing right now. So that's very, very disappointing for me to see, knowing, the talent that they have on that side of the football. But they got to figure it out here pretty soon, because this will probably be, the 4th year that, the Steelers can possibly have a meltdown, in the middle of the season and give the Baltimore Ravens an opportunity to sneak back in there. So they have to figure it out quick, because you don't want to be in the same position that you was in the last 4 or 5 years of limping in the playoffs, not having any, momentum or things like that going into the playoffs, and have a first-round exit. So they have the guys on the pedigree of guys on the side of the ball. And I know I saw age been brought up a lot with, with Cam, TJ, Jalen, and Slay, and all of those guys. Yes, they are older, but they have to find a way to turn this thing around, because they have an opportunity to do something special. Every year is not promised, and they have to find a way to get out of this slump and get back on the winning track.
One last thing I'll ask you, just because I know you played a little bit with Kevin O'Connell, and you're a big fan of his, obviously. And he's a really good coach. Obviously, it doesn't need to be said. But they make that decision to move off of Sam Darnold. They rock and roll with J.J. McCarthy. J.J.'s now going to be coming back after the absence. Carson Wentz is done for the season. That was just coming on out a few moments ago from Tom Pelissero and also Adam Schefter. Just what do you think the dynamics in that locker room are, especially the offensive side of the ball? When you had Sam last year, okay, you let him go, you go to the youngster, and so far J.J. McCarthy the last 2 years has barely just been on the field. What do you think players are thinking right now when they're looking at that offense?
Well, the Minnesota Vikings were in a very unique situation because, yes, they had Sam Darnold. Yes, they had Carson Wentz on roster, but at the same time, they drafted a first-round quarterback. So there's not many teams that's going to continue to put unless you're the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah.
There's not many teams that's going to waste, years on having their quarterback just sit on the bench and just learn from the sideline. Deion said it best. I never learned anything from the bench. You know what I mean? So you only learn from actual action. And they were in a unique situation to where they had a first-round quarterback who, ultimately got hurt because he was going to be the starter, for the most part. He was going to have his time to play in his first year, however we want to look at it. So he was going to play. He's a first-round draft pick. So, therefore, they had to get rid of someone and not being able to and not wanting to sign Sam Darnold to a deal that he wanted because the year that he had. Yes, they could have franchise tagged him if I'm not mistaken, but they didn't want to do that and pay that, $33 million ticket or whatever it was. So the Minnesota Vikings were in a very, very, unique situation to where they had just came off of drafting the first round quarterback. We hear all reports that this is Kevin O'Connell's guy. He loved him from the jump, throughout the draft process. So you knew that he wasn't signing, Sam Darnold back for the number that he wanted. So they have all the trust in the world in J.J. McCarthy. I know you don't have much film on tape, but, they just have to wait to see what he can offer to this football team. But I don't think there's any whispers in the locker room about, not signing Sam Darnold back.
He is the future Pro Football Hall of Famer. Does a great job calling college football games on CBS now. You can catch him on podcasts with Andrew Filipponi, in addition to his cousin Brian McFadden. That is the great Patrick Peterson, who, by the way, knows how to order in a restaurant, a steakhouse in New Orleans very, very well, if I may say so myself.